Yeah.
Hello, Kieran. Hello, Liam. Hello, Asher. How are you? Come here, Asher. Come here, mate. Press conference. Oh, look. There he is, the man of the moment. Say hello to him. It won't be the last time, mate.
Hello, how you doing?
Better than you, Al. No, I'm joking.
Yeah. Well, I look a little bit red. It's fucking hot over here, boys. Hot and windy. Yeah, we're good to go, ready when you are. Who wants to kick us off?
I'll kick off if that's all right.
Yeah.
Reflecting on Friday, when looking at the stats, the conversion rate is one that kind of stands out as a major flaw in Friday night's performance, as well as becoming a little bit of a trend. Why do you think that is? Is it a physical thing, making wrong decisions? Is it a mental thing? Why do you think the conversion rate isn't there at the moment?
Oh, it's probably a few factors. It's never truly one, but we have managed to thin slice it to one, and I think we can improve our connections between our backs and our forwards. We mentioned that this week. Worked on that, and by improving connections, I mean asking more questions in terms of our attack and not being as predictable as we were on Friday. So, I mentioned it post game. It's quite obvious. We worked hard on it this week, and I'm buoyed up by how we've been training and how we've been pushing it forward.
They've also not to kind of make excuses. There've been a load of injuries this season. Do you just put it down to bad luck that it's just one of those years where it just seems to be that injuries just come left, right, and centre?
We're not just the only ones, are we? And I'm never going to use injuries as an excuse. Like I've been much happier to talk about the lads who are coming in than the lads that aren't. The season is different. It's different because of the longest run of games that we've had, I think, ever, and that takes its toll on the body, particularly in how we play. We knew that this period, post Harlequins, to the Six Nations break would be a tough one and would have to share the load, so to speak, in terms of using the old squad, and that's proven to be the case.
Is the schedule something that you think, obviously this is the first year with 10 teams, so obviously fewer games, less clashing with the Six Nations. Do you think the schedule perhaps does need to be looked at going forward, considering there are fewer games that need to be played, that maybe there should have been avoided? I think it's 16 games, I think, in total in the Prem and the Champions Cup. Is this something that perhaps needs to be looked at, that maybe that in hindsight and going forward, maybe there could have been a rest week here, a rest week there?
Yeah, I do, Kieran. In hindsight, it's dead easy, isn't it? Because everyone's suffering this, quite a high frequency of injuries, probably, like I say, brought about by just back-to-back big games and high-quality teams, which has meant that a lot of the Premiership teams have had to rotate squads in the Champions Cup, ourselves included. Leicester down at Stad when they got a good result. And the fact that we're still getting good results and performances is a testament to the quality of the Premiership at the moment. We started late because of the World Cup, and we're finishing bang on time. I'm quite happy to start in September and finish in July if we can get those breaks in the season and make sure that we have an increased focus on player welfare.
In terms of a bit of an injury update, obviously George missed the game against Bristol. Presumably that was a knock picked up in the Northampton game. Are we unlikely to see him in a sale shirt before the Six Nations?
No, I wouldn't say that. No. We're very hopeful that we will see him in a couple of games. Again.
What is the exact sort of injury that he's picked up?
It's an MCL, very low grade MCL, which you can stiffen up with injections. What they are, I think they take plasma or something and stiffen your ligaments up in it. Yeah, I'm not going to get technical, because I'll get it wrong, Kieran. But yeah, he's making a good recovery.
Sam Bedlow, can we expect, has he travelled to
He
South Africa?
travelled and got over his illness and is moving well. He's up for selection, Kieran, yeah.
There have been, as you're probably aware, a lot of rumours, and obviously fans know that at this time of year there are going to be. You won't be able to speak, I imagine, on the exact kind of details of individuals, but with the squad in terms of retention, have there had to be more changes than you thought there were going to be? Is there going to be a bigger turnover than you expected maybe 2 or 3 months ago?
The answers in hindsight and reflection of the last 3 years is no. There are things that I couldn't foresee because it's impossible to know the minds of men, as I've said before. But this seemingly is a reoccurrence of what the game is about and dictates, particularly the game in the modern era with a lower salary cap than, you know, Japan, France, and other big paying nations. So it's just something I've don't come any easier, but it's something that I've come to expect.
It feels like, compared to say 20 years ago across lots of team sports, that there seems to be more movement of players. Why do you think that is? Is it players more willing to perhaps go outside their comfort zone? Because it feels like not just in rugby and football and cricket, lots of sports that players seemingly are playing for more clubs than they used to. Why do you think that might be?
I'll tell you in other sports. I think that rugby has been the rugby climate's been extremely turbulent, and there's always ripple effects. On the back of World Cup cycles, with COVID, definitely with COVID, you know, that's had its own effect on myself and my own decision making. Yeah, and COVID for a few reasons, you know, like I'm not going to keep beating that drum, but that people are more aware financially that they've got a finite time in the sport, and people are more aware of what they want from their life as well. And both of those things, for different reasons, affect different players. But the outcome is increased movement, like you say. And like I say, throw World Cup cycles into that and players' motivations and goalpost shift, whether they're in or out of World Cup squads. World Cup cycles with differing coaches, it's another cat amongst the pigeons, so to speak. So I would say it's different reasons, but there's some of them.
To talk about a potential incoming, Mason Grady has been linked with the club. Interestingly, kind of played a lot at centre, but the last few months has been playing a lot for Cardiff on the wing. If you were to be interested in a player like Mason Grady, do you see him as a centre, as a winger, or are you interested in a player like him just because he's a good, versatile young back?
You make a good Inspector Clouseau, Kieran, with your simple leading questions. If you were to be interested, who wouldn't be interested in a Mason Grady if they had space in the squad and the cap for them? He is a supreme multi-sports athlete from a family who have been, as you know, like his brother played for Wales, his mum played for Welsh basketball. He played basketball for Wales. Like he's got aerial ability, speed, and youthful enthusiasm where he's going to grow. So, you know, I think you have to keep looking to strengthen your squad and potentially could be one of those to do that. Yeah, so we had a chat to him and we'll see where it lands. It's no secret.
So would you be looking at him because just of the quality, or are you recruiting him because he kind of fulfills in terms of a certain position you're looking to recruit in?
Always there's got to be a pathway. Always. Not into warehousing players, don't have the money, the time, or the resources, quite frankly, you know, to manage them. But more so because of being burnt with the changing nature of people's own mindset and movement that you have to consistently feather your nest. At least have the opportunity when time comes to have your ticket in the hat, so to speak. Because I know we're one of many clubs who we've had a chat to.
Cheers, Al. Thank you.
Thanks, Kieran.
Alex Liam here. How are you doing?
Good, thanks, Liam. How are you getting on, mate? You all right?
Yeah, I hope the journey down there was good. Just to refer back to the George Ford thing there, is he with you in Cape Town? Did he travel?
No, he didn't travel. And he didn't travel because he needs injections in his leg, in his MCL to stiffen it up. And I would have loved him to be here. We had, quite a long conversation, but he just wants to do what's best, as he would do, by his knee for us, for England, if selected. So we had 2 injections this week.
Okay, and just to check, was that a training ground injury, or was that something that he picked up in the Northampton game?
No, last contact in the air. If you have a look at that, there's quite a big collision in the air, and he takes one on the side of the knee there as he goes for a ball.
Okay, you say he should be. You're hoping to see him in a sales shirt. So, from an England fans' perspective, should they be worried? Should they not be worried? How?
They'll be excited. We're very excited. He'll be fresh.
Okay, great. So just switching to the Champions Cup itself, okay, you've made the trip down there to South Africa. You're a club with a South African influence for the last good number of years. How excited are your contingent about being there in their homeland, ready to play a Champions Cup game?
They've been excited for months. Coming back here and showing the homeland to the mates, that's one thing. But yeah, they're never more motivated than when they're playing their own kind, the South Africans. They are generally, a culture based around kind of respect. So any loss of face, certainly in a physical front, on a rugby field, which is where all of them ply the trade here, you know that it's like a religion. Sits with them for too long, for ages. So yeah, they've been driving the sessions and been really excited to put our best foot forward. They've been at the forefront a bit, Liam.
Okay, are you aware of the history so far of the games in South Africa in the Champions Cup? I think it says 10 wins for the home side, 0 for the away side. So you've a chance of making history this weekend if I've done my homework properly.
That's brilliant. I'll use that in our Friday's meeting. What better motivator for the boys? Make a bit of history, but also I guess it allows you to play a bit free, doesn't it? I'm sure no one's expecting that much as they didn't against Leinster. I just keep referring to that Luke Littler. I'm not a big darts fan, but I got into it. My missus is for some weird reason, and my 7-year-old kid is because of the shouting at the 180s. I come back and I watched that semi-final and quarter-final, and he just didn't have a care in the world, did he? Like, he's just, and they're talking about how consistent his technique was, and I was just playing with people on the dartboard, like he's back in his academy at St. Helens. So there's real. I haven't spoke to the boys about it, but I take inspiration from that. Can we release the fear off them, the anxiety, to be able to express ourselves with the freedom as a 16-year-old would, in his own backyard. Like that's the holy grail, isn't it, of sport. And in essence, it's where we need to take our tack to, Kieran. We need to be more expressive, ask more questions, and not die wondering. I'd rather die a quick death than a slow one, as it has been at the moment.
Okay, and just to check, did you fly direct from the UK to South Africa, or did you have to go the URC route via Doha and all the other places they fly to?
Did not. Sam, do you fly direct?
No, Dubai first.
No, we had to. We went Manchester, Heathrow, Joburg. Oh, that is direct, I guess. Joburg, Cape Town. So it was a little over 24 hours, and some of the lads, we had 3 different flights because we brought everyone across. We brought everyone, all the injured players, all the rehabbing players, we brought them all over. A lot of them have been to South Africa. We've got a big contingent, and You know, a bit of winter sun never goes amiss, does it? But it's a distant memory now. The flight, like we've been here 2 days. I'm sunburned and windswept. I won't say I'm looking forward to the cold, Liam. Getting back to Manchester, I can handle it being days of 30-degree heat. But it's good to be out here.
Okay, and I was just asking, the URC teams, when they travel down there, they go via Doha and places like that due to the sponsors, Emirates, etc. That's the way they fly. They go through the time zones to the could make a 7 going down there rather than going down direct. That's the reason I asked that. Look, changing tack completely. Harrison, he's got his run on the team the last number of weeks, four starts in a row at Loosehead, with Bevan Rodd being Donnan McIntyre being unavailable. His tackle count is off the charts. I was doing some maths there earlier on. I think he's on 69 in 4 games, including 22 against Northampton. Where's this renaissance come from? Why is he suddenly starring, having got a long-awaited look in his team?
The question was asked, wasn't it, a couple of weeks ago, because he had like a man of the match kind of performance. So I know the answer to this. Well, at least I think I do. There's a bit of fuck you Sanderson in there, you know, for not picking him whilst we had all our contingent of loose heads, and I love that. You know, he's not nasty with it. It's just like, I'm showing you what I've got. That's one part of it. He is the best professional, I would say, in the club, and that's including Tom Curry. You know, he's first in the gym, last out, maybe because he's got identical twins at home, but he has always been that way. He's always been that way. So he's very consistent with his preparation, and therefore his robustness, his fitness is right up there, which allows him to have that work rate. And we've recently started to lean into energy in all its forms, and how we can look to transfer energy on the field by ways of emotional energy into like physical energy, you know, our actions, and he's captain of energy. And that crown sits very easily on his head. And it's something that I think is helping him stay in the game.
Well, it's very impressive for a prop to be coming up with those statistics compared to, say, a back row or a lock who might be like more sensitive.
Yeah. You tell me again, I'll go and tell him we're just about to go for some food, so I'll go and shake his hand. 69 and 4, is it?
69 and 4, that's what he's got. Yeah, he's doing pretty good. Okay, great. Thanks a million, Alex. Best of luck at the weekend.
Liam, thanks, guys.
All the best.
Spoke to you, obviously. John, Brendan, how you doing? How you getting?
Can I jump in, Al? Is that all right?
Yeah, mate.
Good stuff. I was going to ask you if you take what sort of size squad you've taken. It sounds like you've taken everybody, say, rehabbing players as well. Is that something you were really keen to do, and to make this I guess, you know, a break in the season in more ways than one?
Well, you know, the break's coming, in it.
Yeah, that's different, isn't
it? This isn't a break. We've got a job to do here. We know that. We spoke about that on Monday. It was quite honestly, we needed everyone in terms of numbers just to train.
Okay.
And even then, we've had to borrow a few, such are our injury woes. But like I say, I'm not leaning into that. And then we've had, as you know, quite a lot of lads who were key influencers, energy givers, people who will be featuring again back end of the season. And I want him to experience this with the boys. You know, it's about connections, isn't it? It's about connections off the field, which transfer to connections on the field. And I didn't want a group of lads sat at home in 3 degrees, which it is, when they could be in 30-degree weather out here, and sharing, breaking bread, having all those little conversations that I believe have a big influence over time on the ambience of the squad, and also how we're going about our game. And like I said, we need to push our game on, Kieran. So I wanted them to be here to contribute, and they have. That was part of it. Budgets are another, quite frankly. You know, everyone's running to a budget, and because of the US, what it is, the Champions Cup pay for 35, we just had to top it up another 15 or so. Okay. Makes it economically efficient.
Has Manu gone with you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And how's he doing in his rehab? Still sort of similar sort of target?
Yeah, mid to Six Nations. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's about what was expected at the start, isn't it? I think. Yeah.
Yeah. He's on target. Yeah, I haven't heard anything since.
Good stuff. I just want to ask you something, Al, about Ben Curry and his leadership, if I may. Just the way he's sort of grown into that role over the last 3 or 4 seasons. It seemed like he's really sort of made it his own.
Yeah, I've been impressed with him. Obviously, that's why he's captain. But it was a kind of quasi leadership role with John O'Ross 2 years ago.
Of course, yeah.
And then he took over that role kind of last year. And it's changed again now with kind of Jono moving on. You know, Jono had his South African contingent behind him at that point, a larger contingent.
Yeah.
And that lends itself to our style, a bit more authoritarian, a little bit more surly, I might say, but not a bad style. You know, it works. And he was brilliant in helping bring Ben on. Last year, and Ben's grown again this year, and it's a different relationship again because people can fill the void. You know, with Jono not being there and being our voice, you know, your Rob Dupree's and your George Fords have a big influence as well. So it's been testing it at times as it should be. His comms are getting better. He thinks differently, so it's definitely improving him as a person, right? Because he's got to take a breath, got to calm down. He's got to think what people might be thinking and what they need to hear, not what he's feeling and thinking. And that's the hardest skill as a leader in the heat of the moment, I think. Well, it is from my own experience. So he's grasping that at a tender age. He's 23, isn't he? 24.
Yeah. Are you a firm believer that the back rower is in the best position to captain a side? You've got leaders in
Best
different parts,
isn't it, John? Let's face it.
Bias aside, but it is probably the most common position to be chosen as a captain.
Right, is it? I don't know. Like, Booker's a good one, isn't it? You know, because he's the forefront of the scrum, got a lot of comms to the ref.
Yeah.
You know, on every break. You see a lot of successful second rows, and then centres. But most of the time, people tend to leave 9s and 10s out of it a bit, don't they? Usually, because they've already got a lot on the plate in terms of game management and just leading the team, and it's another thing in terms of making decisions. But it's worked for Rob. The added responsibilities work for Rob, and Ben hasn't been there at the start of the season. And Fordy talks anyway. You know what I mean? Whether he's captain or not, he's still going to lead in his unique style. So I haven't made it any clearer there, have I? But I think the lads who can lead by example are often the better captains, and they're the ones who are in the thick of it. So that's your hook, your back rows, your centres. They're the bangers, aren't they? They get through the most work. And I get a bit more authenticity to speak from the heart and drive the team emotionally.
Yeah, it's not a deliberate thing because your back rows tend to be closest to the breakdown, and that's where the comms with the ref can perhaps have a greater influence. I don't know.
Yeah, potentially. I haven't really thought it through. We've just gone for best fit, really, and also, like, you know, it's a bigger role. Captaincy is a bigger role than just the decisions on the field, as we know. Like, there's a load go into it. There's a load of little conversations that happen all the time. A lot of conversations with me and the coaches. Like, he's the conduit between that. He's got to have hard conversations, like ring me up on days off and like the weeks and how they felt. And a lot of players don't want that. Just want to get up, they want to get on with the job. But he's got a thirst for it. Like his brother Tom doesn't really want that. You know, he wants to focus on his game, and he leads really well. But all the periphery stuff, like, he's very thirsty for it. So that's it's something you've got to take on board as a captain, I think.
And is it something, as you said, that ideally your 10's obviously running your attack? Is it something that ideally you wouldn't burden a 10 with the extra responsibility as captain if there's somebody else who can do it? But he is a natural sort of stand-in if that's necessary.
Yeah, obviously 10's part of your leaders group. If you have one, because the strategy and he generally corrals the backs whilst whoever, depending on what the next phase is directing the forwards. And coming back to original point, tend to leave them, tend to take some of the decisions off them, free them up. But mature tens are able to do both. Yeah, I'd say the more mature the 10, the better they are able to handle it. Like Faz is, Faz, George, and Rob, they're the only 10s that I've really worked with over the last 15 years.
Mm.
They're all good leaders. I don't have any qualms putting any one of those as captain.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks very much, Al. Have a good week.
Thanks, John. Cheers, mate.
Yeah, Alex.
How are you, mate? You good?
I'm good. How's you?
Yeah, well, yeah. Like,
Enjoying it down in South Africa?
Yeah, it was second day in, 2 days training, and you feel like you put a lot of you feel like you get the fixes. You know, you asked me on Monday how I felt after 24 hours of transit.
Yeah.
Not so rosy, but right now I'm in a good place.
That's good to hear. How's the kind of conditions down there? Getting training and all that kind of thing?
Like I say, it's really hot, and they've got the unprecedented wind that even the guys at the rugby club said, "We've never had this before." How wind? That's going to drop tomorrow, and it's going to be a night game Friday. So we should have perfect conditions that it'll be not as hot. So
that's good to hear. So obviously getting to the game in terms of that, obviously if things go your way, a win could get you through to the next round. How does that kind of feel?
what, in the pool of death?
Yeah.
Mega. Like it's what we're going for. You know, we want a home semi, we want to give ourselves best chance in the best comp. So and we're going to throw everything at it, Kieran, like everything we can at this moment in time. Because we want to go through. So yeah, that's the aim.
And obviously they defeated La Rochelle down there, which is quite a good win, but their season's kind of been mixed in the ERC. You have Seal have been kind of praised a lot in Ireland recently in terms of how you approach the Leinster game, in terms of finding the weaknesses from your kind of analysis. How's that kind of worked in terms of the Stormers? What have you identified as your way to kind of beat them?
It's telling, wouldn't it, Brendan? We focus so much of this week on our own game, you know. What should have been better against Bristol, Northampton is good for the Stormers. You know, we get that parts of our game right. And I'm talking about how effective we are in the attacking areas with the opportunities we've had. Without trying to ignore the big rocks, you know, the rocks and the pebbles, like we still need to give ourselves opportunities by decent game management and good physicality, defensive physicality. Like those are the things that have made us competitive all season, but we've been focusing on what we do when we get down there a bit more.
And obviously Ernst is returning to his club, a couple of months after leaving. Has he been able to give you kind of any insight into what you could expect?
Yeah, bits and pieces. Yeah. No real secrets. Tactics only get you so far, don't they? Still, game's pretty simple. Like that's why I love it. Effort, endeavor, sheer want and desire. Like those things, they're what makes you competitive. You know, tactics might give you a slight edge for periods of the game, but yeah, we're not relying on because you could get Jedi'd, couldn't you, as well? Because we've got him.
Yeah. And then any kind of secret spots that he knows to take you all out around there anyway.
Yeah, what? Secret spots?
Yeah. Because he's obviously been down there quite a while.
Yeah, no, yeah. Look, the boys have been out and encouraged to go out, not out, but go and socialise. So they've been out around the front. They've been out, some decent restaurants. We're going out for a meal together now. So we're using it to get better on the field and tighter off it. That's for sure. And I'm certain that the social aspects of our trip will ramp up towards the weekend, but we're not even gone there yet because it's not a holiday.
Yeah, and just kind of one final one is a bit detached from it, of obviously looking at your recruitment and all this, and with the news of kind of and Carberry leaving Munster, there's no interest in him at all.
Well, three fly-halves. That's mentioned Pathway, didn't I? No, he's a great player. I think he's a mega player, but like, you know, going back to the initial thing, like we're in retention talks to keep Rob another season. Tom Curtis, you know, he wants to play more, and that's an assurance we have to give him for his development. And George Ford, so like we've got really, I think, 3 really good fly halves for the foreseeable future who are already ingrained in our culture and, you know, a lot of our philosophies.
Yeah. No worries. Thank you very much.
Cheers, Brendan. Steve, Claire, you good? Any questions?
I've arrived late because I didn't know this was taking place at 2 o'clock. So if I ask you a question, it will definitely be repetition of what's already gone before. I might hold on for the recording and save you repeating stuff.
Well, the boys can clock off. It's up to them if they've heard it before. But it could be a completely original, Claire, couldn't it? You know,
it could be. It could be.
So.
The reason I've got on a bit late as well, I've just got back from a run, which is why I'm in this absolute garbage of an outfit. So apologies. I will put my camera on though to be polite. If you
garbage, it's Asbo-esque, isn't it? You know what I mean?
It really is. Active Rangers. It's a bit of like rugby pig.
Oh, fair enough. Okay. How was the run?
It was lovely, thank you. Hyde Park in the winter sunshine. You can't get much better.
No, that's mega. That yeah. Good for the soul as much as it is for the constitution.
Exactly. I'm looking forward to pretending to be in Cape Town on Saturday, but really being in Chiswick with Ashy. So.
Are you with Ashy?
I am.
Studios or?
Yeah, we've got a little studio around us, yeah, but we'll just be doing the comms from Chiswick.
Right, okay.
I've already had Ashley messaging me in a panic this morning with about 11 South African names he can't handle. So that's next on the agenda.
Passing it over to you or just teaching them how to speak?
Teaching him how to speak English will come first and then we'll tag the names on it.
Right, yeah, no, there you go. We've got a priority sorted.
Exactly. If any of you guys have heard any of this before, please feel free to tap out. The obvious one is, how are the Northern boys coping with the heat down there?
Loving it. All of them a little bit ruddy. Made it compulsory to bring the bucket hats as we are Mancunian and some factor 30. So, yeah, no, but the it's a welcome change in weather, and change as good as a rest, so they say.
I bet it is. And this change of focus has probably come at quite a good time for you guys, given how the last few weeks have gone in the Prem.
Yeah, you know, it could have felt a lot different, couldn't it? 14-0 up against Saints and with all those opportunities that were squandered. But if you're hanging on for last gasp victories repeatedly, you're gonna fall short. So, you know, it's a decent wake-up call for us to refocus and move our game forward, which we need to do.
If you look at results, it's obviously been a tough few weeks, but do you feel that there have been elements of your game that have progressed over the last few rounds of the Premiership, given that what really matters is that you're in the mix by the playoffs and then you execute when it really counts?
You need to speak to our highly invested owners around this. You know, like, I totally agree with you. You need to be in the mix and finish strong, and that's been shown year in, year out. We did like a little, and I think I mentioned this last week, it was just to really seeing where we are the first week in the new year. And I asked the lads to come up with 5 significant moments over the start of the season, positive and negative, and rate them when they were and to what degree, and plot them on a graph, and we could see the journey, visually see the journey of the season. And most of those positive experiences, the majority of them occurred in that last month. I'm talking the Stad game, the Leinster game, when we performed well and got some lads who hadn't had much opportunity come back and beat Saracens. And then you get 2 games where the results don't go your way for our own, we believe, you know, obviously the teams we played against were good teams, but we should and could have played better. And 3 weeks in professional sport is a lifetime, Claire. Like, you only need to go back 3 weeks, beat the champions at home when you're top of the league, and now you're kind of 4th, 5th, and on the back of a couple of narrow results, and you've got to remind yourself of that the game moves fast. It moves faster than the pace of life, and try and look at the bigger picture at times like this, and understand what part of your games have improved. Set piece improved during Christmas. You know, despite the injuries, we've got a lot of lads through the squad who got some opportunities. That was also beneficial. You know, this is you know, like I said before, but we've stumbled across something which I hope is going to be what is consistently intentional for us, and that is our necessity to celebrate, support, to maintain, take, steal, use energy on the field, and certain sort of ways of how we do that. I know it sounds a little bit mystical, but we've measured it, so it's actually quantifiable. And that, like I say, it's been shown in other sports, but that is why I believe we've been more competitive in those couple of losses than we have in those where, you know, the wheels fell off, where we just weren't the races emotionally. So I think that's probably the biggest thing that we've latched onto over December.
You've talked in the past about how if you're green, then you're ripening, and once
Yeah.
you're ripe, then you're rotting. I think that's the expression I've heard you say before.
Yeah, so McDonald's CEO said it.
Brilliant.
Right.
Is an experience like this, coming to Cape Town, taking on the Stormers in their own backyard, for some of your youngsters, given that, for example, the final last year was some of the first time that some of them had played at Twickenham, like how crucial is this weekend in their development and in your ripening?
Yeah, it's just a different world out here, isn't it? Like, it's a different world in terms of the culture. But the rugby culture that comes with it, like the rugby gods out here, and you're playing in their house of worship, so to speak. And when you go up against teams like 15 Springbok internationals, you can't that experience you can't take away from someone, Claire. You know, I think it was Dave Aldridge who said, once you expand your mind, it never shrinks back to the same size, to quote someone else who's a really good coach or whatever. So, like, I'm certain they're going to be stronger for better for it. Like, we'll be better for it as a team. That's why we've all come out here. And these lads will get the opportunity. Yeah, there comes a point where non-selection or selection is just about experience. Like, these young lads who are knocking on the door, like, well, yeah, you're going well, you're training well, but he's more experience.
Yeah.
And there comes a point on the back of games like this where that is no longer a reason. So I prefer that headache than
Yeah.
yeah.
Nice place to be. Just finally from me, there's been Slaying the Dragon against Scarlets over the years. There's been Caging the Bear against Bristol. There was what was it, the Rockstar Battle of the Bands against Bath. What is this week's mantra?
We haven't got one yet. Sorry to disappoint you. Like I say, it's been we've talked about making connections over the week. I've asked the concierge if he can find me a Giant Connect 4 ball to play as a bit of an anchor. And there was mention of taking the weather with us, because they were so nice here. Let's kind of rain some pain type stuff, kind of metaphors. But you know, I'm at times you need to do away with the flowery theming, and then into just the raw emotion. There's enough South Africans that this in our squad that this game has meaning for.